and welcome in to On the River with the Rafters, presented by Point Brewery. Super excited to be bringing this back for episode number 2 of the off season. And as you can see, joining us today, it is pitching coach Mike Spears. Super excited to have him on the show and excited to be back for a second episode here. And just to kind of bring you through what we're going to be doing here, it's going to be kind of another introductory press conference of sorts with Coach Mike over here. And well, again, really glad to have him on. If you haven't had a chance to check out our first episode, make sure to go back and do that. We had a great conversation between myself, Austin Thomas, the radio broadcaster for this upcoming season, and of course, new field manager for this season, Thomas Ziglowski. Also, we call him Ziggy, though. That's what you should probably get used to us calling him. That's how I'll be referring to him throughout this interview as well. But enough of the introduction out of the way. You know what? It's time to talk with the pitching coach, Mike Spears. Mike, how are you today?
I'm great, Tom. I'm a great, Austin. Appreciate you having me on, man. Looking
Well, I'm
forward to
really
it.
glad to have you on. I know we talked a little bit before we went on air here, and was super glad to have you on, and glad you're so talkative as well. But to kind of start things off, I kind of just want you to give us a rundown real quick of who you are, in case anyone's a new fan or hasn't heard about you somehow. Just a quick, brief introduction about who you are before we get a little further along with this preseason interview.
Absolutely. Mike Spears, been in the game for a long time. Retired police officer of 13 years in the line of duty. Almost lost my life. Found a new perspective, and baseball came back into my life probably about 3 to 4 years after my shooting. And obviously played baseball all my life. Played professional baseball, college baseball, and I've been blessed to coach at all levels: high school, college, summer ball, and professional ranks as well. So bring a wealth of knowledge, and I'm a student of the game, still a student of the game. And the minute that I'm not a student of the game, then it's time for me to walk away. But every day I try to learn something.
I
So
love that mentality.
honor, yeah, obviously, yeah. I love that as players too. We got to be humbled and study the game, because the game doesn't owe us anything. But we have to evolve just as the game goes. So awesome that I'm back for the second season. Love Wisconsin Rapids. Had a great summer last year, both physically, spiritually, and mentally. And I'm looking forward to what this summer brings.
Well, of course, here in the coaching staff last season. But what have you been up to really over this past year or so over the off season?
This offseason. So in the offseason, I actually am the pitching coordinator at a facility here in Knoxville, Tennessee, called BC Athletics. We have a post grad, which is a gap year program that guys come and develop in 9 months. So those are the guys that slip through the cracks, that are injured, that sometimes they're overlooked. They're not bigger, faster, or stronger. And when they get to us, they have 9 months to do that, to develop, and obviously physically and mentally, and grow into a player that they want to be. So from day one, it's development focused. Some guys go to school, some guys don't. And so they pound the pavement daily. And then this off season, obviously doing that, I had very extensive interviews with the Milwaukee Brewers. And once again, just like last year, I was one man away from actually obtaining a job. And like I tell my players, we're going to pound the stone. That eventually that stone's going to crack. So I'm excited to come back to Rapids and just share my experiences and my knowledges with everything. I know where I'm supposed to be, and we're right here talking about it. So again, I can't be more blessed and more honored to be back in the Rapids.
Kind of moving on a little bit, we talked about, how this off season's been to you. Can you kind of go back a little bit for some people that don't know, your start in your coaching career is that 7 years ago from now, something like that?
High level was 7 years ago. I had obviously during my playing career, I helped guys out with their camps and Um, to be honest, when I was a senior in high school, we had the East County baseball camps in San Diego, and I was part of that every year. And it was, Brian Giles, Marcus Giles, Eric Karros, um, Shane Spencer, all these big dogs. They would show up, and I have guys that I played with and against, except Eric, he was a little older, but just kind of seeing that and seeing how they were players too, but how you can make a difference just by talking to players, just by showing them, what made you successful and stuff like that. And that just kind of carried on with me through the years. And I helped out with little league teams and some travel ball teams here and there when I was younger, but I really didn't jump into it per se into the coaching realm until after law enforcement. I would do lessons here and there early on, but really like full bore getting into the coaching and actually knowing that I made a difference on the field. And then at a high level was literally 7 years ago. So
So how
not
is
not new to the game, but
that?
fairly new. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some people out there that can say, I've been coaching 20 years and whatnot, and
Yeah,
hats
yeah,
off to you. But
right,
that's
right.
that's a long journey. I mean, you've had, still a journey yourself. You've been quite a few places. Obviously, you coached summer ball back in the West Coast League in 17 and
Mhm.
19, and also pitched or coached at the college levels and professionally as well. What has that kind of been like for you, kind of switching from league to league as well?
Y- the crazy thing is I'm pretty easy on transition because I keep it simple. I don't overcomplicate what I do. So I could walk in, like, speaking of when I came out here, they were in just the post grad just had started. They were probably 5 months into the season, into training, and then they started in February. I came out here in February, got literally off the plane. I was at a game the next day. They had no idea who I was, and I made mound visits and everything like I was supposed to be there. So there's obviously different climates, different leagues, different players, but at the same time, still the game of baseball, man. And so I take that, like, I take the professional approaches every day's day one. So it's very simple for me to get acclimated to that. But yeah, the leagues are obviously different in each of its own respective ways.
Well, you talk about, the differences in the leagues, and you've been in the Northwoods League now for a year, so you've got a little bit of experience. When you compare the Northwoods League to, some of the other collegiate summer leagues, obviously college ball and the professionals, what are some of those differences that you see specifically in the Northwoods League?
Yeah, the Northwoods League is grueling, and I love it. I love the fact that in pro ball you got 6 days out of place. You're either on the road or you're at home, so you kind of more just kind of kick back, as you would say, right? Like I know I have 6 days at home or 6 days on the road, so it's a little bit easier. In the West Coast League, you have 3 game series, this and that. Northwoods League, you're on the go, man. Like it, and I love it for the fact that, yeah, it's hard on the players. I get it. Like I totally understand that. Like you're on the road, come back, you play Green Bay, you come back, you go to Wausau, you come back, which that's only a 40-minute drive, but it's those going back and forth. You're not spending a night unless you're going too farther than 2.5 hours. So you have to be on your game. You have to get your rest. You have to make sure that what you're doing and you're focused in what you're doing. But I think every player that plays in this league, when they go to the next level, it becomes easier. Right? It's never easy, but it comes easier because they've been through the rigmarole. They've been through, hey, I'm in a different city 2 days in a row instead of, hey, I'm here for 6 days and now I feel I'm more acclimated to where I'm at instead of being on my toes all the time, right? You don't want to be complacent in anything you do, but I think, and then you see a team for 6 days in a row, that gets kind of tiresome as well. And then, but in the minors, there are a lot of going back and forth, and if you're there 6 days, something might not, mesh. And so, I like just being on the go, and I think it's for mindset for these guys. I think it speaks volumes at the next level
Well,
for
like I
them.
mentioned, kind of talking about what you've learned from your career in coaching, along with that, Is there anything in particular that kind of stands out to you that you've kind of learned as a coach that you think is like the most important thing?
If you don't fail, you're not going to be successful. That if I was going to give any tips on coaching at all, failure is accepted, and accept failure. It's okay, because that's part of success. You don't get to success without failure, because if you haven't failed, you don't know what you're made up of. Like, you don't know how you're going to handle adversity. You don't know how to get better. So failure is the start of development. Just very simple. It doesn't get any, simpler than that.
Do you think that there's more development the bigger the fail is?
Sometimes, and it depends on the person. It depends on, if you fail, and failure doesn't make you who you are as well, right? So I think if you do fail big, what else is there to do? Like, there's nothing worse that you can do then, right? Little failure. I mean, and then what are you afraid of now? Okay, well, you failed really big. So now what? At that point, is there's nothing bigger than you can do. So now go back out there and get after it, because if you fail, you've already been there. You've already been on that dance. And that's where I like to put guys in positions of failure. So when they get to that spot again, or they're not afraid of what's going to come. Because I tell guys, what's the worst that's going to happen to you? Okay, you're going to give up a home run, you're going to give up a base hit or a game winning. Okay, so the next time you're in that situation, you've already been there, how the outcome of it. And there it is. There's the outcome of, you might not like that outcome. You might get in that position and you strike out three guys in a row with bases loaded and game's over. So, tit for tat in that game. So,
Well, they say baseball is a game of failures, so
oh,
always good to make sure that you can have that kind of a lesson for you. Would you say that you kind of believed that back in your playing days and when you were pitching,
no,
or is that something that really came on when
no.
you were a coach?
Failure wasn't an option when I played, right? You know what I mean? So, like, you hear those coaches too, old school mentality, and I don't want to get into that. Well, when I played, because there's coaches on that. Yeah, there's old school mentality and there's new school mentality, but you have to bring the game in the middle of it, because I have to be a conduit of information. If I'm just an old school guy, I'm probably not going to get any receptiveness from anybody, right? And the overall goal for me is to get total buy-in, right? For them to believe in me and them to believe in themselves, and for me to get the best out of them, they have to buy into what I've got and understand. And it's that trust, right? The biggest thing for me as coaching is, I'm going to build a relationship with you because I actually genuinely care about you, and you have to trust me, because if you don't trust me, then we've got bigger issues. And you have to trust yourself, trust that you're going to do the right thing at the right time, and the information that I'm giving you actually is good information and it works.
How would you say that you would have reacted to coaching yourself? Or I guess, how would the player you have reacted to you as a coach?
We would have butted heads, man, because I was a hard head. I mean, I was a left-handed pitcher, and I knew everything, until I didn't, until humility punched me right in my face. And then you kind of, I wish and I did have coaches like me back in the day. They did care and they did build relationships. Um, at the same time, I didn't really have a pitching coach until I got in the pro ball. So it was kind of like, I felt like I was on my own the whole time. And when I got there, I was me because of me, and now that I know I wasn't me because of me, I was me because of him. And and the trials and tribulations of failures, what made me who I was as well. So, but I think, yeah, back in the day, I always respected my coaches, but we were kind of butted heads because I would have been very upset about failing, in that, even though I did.
Well, you mentioned during that, I'm me because of, who led me there, and I'm also me because of him. And you pointed up to this guy there. I know I've heard that you're a man of faith. You want to go ahead and kind of
Yeah.
explain, your faith connection and what it means to
Oh
you,
yeah.
not just as a person,
100.
but also as a coach.
Right. 100%. I mean, I wouldn't be here without Jesus Christ, number one. Um, in the shooting itself, I should be dead. And if you saw videos of where bullets are flying, a bullet literally went past my face, and it was from the angle. of the trajectory where it came out of the wall because he was shooting outside of an apartment. I'm not here. I'm not supposed to be here. And my partner, Ollie Perez's testimony is one of faith. And Jesus Christ came down in between the shooter and himself. And I was a believer before that. Um, but walking by faith is very hard, especially in these days. And I think just my background of my mom had me at 15 years old, single parent pretty much. My dad lived in Chicago. We lived in San Diego. I didn't have any contact with my dad until I was 27. I was abused as a child sexually, and growing like negatives and negatives and negatives, and just thinking that I wasn't worthy of success. And I in a nutshell, I wasn't that guy that was, oh, woe is me. But at the same time, I didn't know God had my hand the whole time until I was older and then put my faith in him. And I've seen miracle after miracle, just by the faith and obviously our shooting. But yeah, I am a man of God. I'm fearful of God. And I make mistakes just like anybody else, but I know who has redeemed me. So I'm in a good spot, and I try to profess that. Um, I'm not a guy that's going to look you any differently if you're not of the same faith I am, but I'm going to understand, and we can still be in the same room and talk and have a good conversation regardless. And I think we're too divided as people right now. And it's crazy to me that just common sense has gone out the window. Um, so my faith is that we can become one regardless of our beliefs.
Yes.
So
Really powerful stuff there. One thing that I heard is that you were holding religious meetings with some of the players that wanted to do that last year. Is that something you're planning on bringing back? Is that kind of one of the things that you felt kind of empowered to do?
I do. And sometimes I mean, and it wasn't all about religion. Like it's about relationships. Number one, religion gets really ugly because we put the human element into it, don't we? And it's very easy to do that. I gave my guys, because this game is hard and they're away from their families. They want, they just got back. They just got out of college and they're playing summer ball. And all it is, we're on the road all the time and it's really hard. I tried to give them not only encouragement from the Bible, because I was doing my daily devotionals every day. So I was kind of giving them a positive, but we would talk about positives. And I would just give them either something that I read that morning in the Bible, or a devotional that I read, or just a positive statement. It's one of those things. And we talked about Joshua Medcalf has pound the stone and chop wood, carry water. And there's parables in the stories and all that stuff. And I would just tell them, it's one of those things where I want to give them something positive before we get into battle for that day. And sometimes it did turn into, religious talks, like, about, some guys had questions, and some guys brought up their own stuff. So yeah, I thought it was, and I'm yes, 100% I'm going to do that this summer as well. And it's one of those things too. And I know, like, everybody's not a believer, and I'm okay with that. They know where I stand, and they know that I love them regardless of what they believe. And I don't jam it down their throat, but I give them something positive, regardless of religion or not. I want them to understand. I understand where they're at and what they need. So.
And from what I've heard from you, I mean, this powerful belief. You kind of mentioned that you were a believer, before law enforcement, but really after that shooting, it sounds like that's kind of where it ended up coming into your life more and more frequently. Just kind of explain, what your time in law enforcement meant to you from that perspective.
What 100%. Um, Basically, like I tell everybody, you think things in life, the big things in life, are so big when they're really not. When you almost lose your life, the big things aren't really the big thing. It's the little things that matter. And it's the servant's heart. I would have to be a believer. Anybody that puts an 8-pound bulletproof vest on it every night and goes out into the street thinking that they're going to come home at night, you better believe something. You better have faith in something, because it's not, you kind of lie to yourself. And I think when the lie was over, that's when I was like, yeah, I'm done. Like, because this is real, and everyone's like, well, that's what you signed up to do. No, I signed up to be a servant of people. I signed that, I wanted to make a difference in the community. If you would have said, hey, you're going to die in the line of duty, I probably still would have done it. But at the same time, I went, I don't know, man. Right. I know who I am, and I know, and that's any first responder. They're selfless. To me, you have to have faith in that profession. But I was in dark days after that. Like, I didn't understand. I had PTSD, and I don't literally use the word disorder, but I had post-traumatic stress, period. And I had some questions about myself, and I'm a very strong individual personally and mentally and physically. And I doubted a lot of things. And by the grace of God, my faith grew because he held my hand and walked me through it.
Would you mind kind of detailing that transition? Because you mentioned it, the from law enforcement and then eventually making it back to the world of baseball and in the coaching ranks. Can you kind of
Yeah.
detail what that transition was like for you?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I had a lot of dark days. And again, Skyline Church in San Diego, I opened up a CrossFit gym. Like, so 3 days before my shooting, I was in a shootout, and I don't know if we mentioned that or not, but I was in a shootout, almost lost my life. My partner got shot and came back to life. Like, he had 89 units of blood transfused into him, Ollie. And so I had opened up a CrossFit gym. I had got my level 1 training certificate, and I thought, all this stuff. And so I kind of, which they tell you not to do after a traumatic event, is start a business and do all this stuff. But the church actually let me open up the CrossFit in the church. So they had a gymnasium that they were building, and said, yeah, go ahead. And so I did that, and that started morphing, because after they started building their basketball court in the gym, I got kind of said, hey, this is time to spread your wings. Now you started your business. And I went to a facility across the street from a baseball batting cages, and I was doing CrossFit stuff. And then people were asking me for pitching lessons because they knew that I did pitching. And I was like, okay. And then my buddy asked me, hey, I'm coaching at the high school. Will you come and kind of oversee some pitchers and see kind of what's going on? And it was that kind of morphing of, I had the CrossFit gym for 3 years at the time, and then we're continuing it. And it just morphed into the baseball facility across the street said, hey, do you want to start an academy? And so from CrossFit RSD became Next Level Athletics, became Next Level Pitching Academy. And it kind of flourished. It just kind of overnight kind of blossomed into, hey, I'm in the game of baseball again, because guys want to get bigger, faster, stronger. They want to throw harder. They want to know their mechanics and their foundations. And then in 2017, a guy who was my host family when I played in Canada in the Independent League, Prairie League, said, hey, I just bought a baseball team in the West Coast League, Victoria Harbor Cats. Would you be my pitching coach? And I was like, what? And from there, it's like, just again, you're talking 3 years of darkness for me. I was struggling mentally very badly, but I was holding it together because of this business. And then that opportunity opened up and said, hey, here's an opportunity to go coach pretty high level college baseball, summer ball. And by the grace of God and by the grace of my wife allowing me to leave for the summer, I did. And the rest is history from there, man. It was awesome.
The rest is history. But what's not history is the future. The future. And we've got to look
True.
ahead towards this upcoming season. A couple minutes left here in this episode. And so, one final question that I want to ask you. Well, I guess I've got two, but one final question before I get to this last one. When you look at this upcoming season and you look at the Rafters for this year, what's kind of one hope that you have for this team? And one of the things that you hope are the biggest strengths for this squad in this upcoming season?
The biggest strength for me is that guys just come in ready to play and for each other. Don't be individuals. Like as the team aspect of it, you're coming here for a reason. You're coming here to get your innings in. You're coming here to get your at bats in. You're coming here to get better. And we want you to leave better than you came so you can actually play and get better innings at the college that you're at. And if you buy into the program that we have, you buy into yourself, everything else will write itself out.
And I was going to ask a little bit more about your relationship with Ziggy as the manager for this season, and don't have that much time, but I do want to talk about the grab and or phrase that Ziggy has mentioned before, the new motto slogan that we're kind of taking for this season. What are your kind of thoughts on that?
Grab an oar. Everybody's got to participate, right? It's like I tell my pitching staff, pass the baton. Same thing. We're all going to grab the oar. We're all going to go in the same direction, because if you got guys going to the left and to the right, we're going to go in circles. So we all have to be on the same page. We all have to be team guys and not me guys. And that's how you move forward, right? And I'll tell you right now, I'll be behind because I lead from behind, and I let guys know that we're eye level, and I'm not going to be in front telling everybody what to do. I'm going to be grabbing an oar, and we're going to be getting after it. Like, so that's how you succeed in that sense.
Well, it's not just something for the players and coaches to do. It's also for the fans to do as well. For you guys that are watching today's episode, make sure that your guys are getting excited, because the season is just about 3 months away from getting started, maybe a little bit closer than that. Actually, it's closer to 2.5 months, I think, at the time that this will be going up here. And so at that point, make sure that you are getting ready for the season, because we can use all the help we can get out there at the field. Get your tickets right now. You can go to our website for the Wisconsin Rapids Rafters. It's super looking forward to the season, and a big thank you to pitching coach Mike Spears for joining us on the River with the Rafters, presented by Point Brewers. So again, big thank you to all of you for tuning in, and another big thank you to pitching coach Mike Spears. Any last words?
I appreciate it. I look forward to this summer. And like you said, grab the oar. Let's go.
Grab an oar, everyone. That's going to do it for this episode. Until next time, thanks for tuning in.